Hello everyone, welcome back to a new episode of Brew with Memli, and today I'm going to show you how we make our new Ibrik Cezve recipe using our new coffee from Panama. So when it comes to Ibrik Cezve, there's a few things to consider. The first is really the equipment. You really need a high quality equipment such as a copper Ibrik Cezve, a gas. It can be sand heated or it can be butane gas, which is more available around. A stand can help sort of create some space between the flame and the bottom of the brewer. Cups, small special cups here, it's really good for the drinking experience, especially because it's going to trap those grounds in the bottom a little bit better, and a scale and water and classic things. For our water, we're using very clean and soft water of 125 ppm. With 50 parts per million of alkalinity, 50 parts per million of magnesium, and 25 parts per million of calcium ions as calcium carbonate. So when it comes to our recipe for this particular coffee, I'm going to use 8 grams of coffee for 70 grams of water at 70 degrees. So the reason behind is to create slightly more intensity on the taste experience. And with Ibrik Cezve, I like using either natural process, anaerobics, or honey process in general. It works well with a wash process as well. However, to really have a sweet experience, I rather get a more sort of natural anaerobic or honey process. When it comes to grind size, and that's also where your equipment is really, really important. You need a very high quality grinder or burrs. And it's really hard to talk about grind size, but if you have a Commandante, we usually stick between 2 and 4 clicks. That's kind of the general guidance for Ibrik Cezve. Now, for this recipe in particular, I will be using 4 clicks. If you have another type of grinder like a Ditting, Eureka, Malconing, etc., you know the finest setting on espresso? Well, you can take that or just a tad finer, and that will be this recipe's grind size. So it's for Ibrik, it's on the coarser side, but at the naked eye, it's impossible to see a difference. The reason why I'm going for just a tad coarser is to avoid clumps. That's it. And even though it's very fine and coarse compared to the traditional, really, really old school Ibrik Cezve, I still use either like a little stick or better a YDT tool. That will really avoid the clumps. And in classic or more modern recipes, the ratio is 1 to 10. Here I'm using 1 to 8.75. And usually you break the clumps after you add the water, but here I break the clumps before. Because I do not want to add any agitation. Let me get my water now. Our water sits at 70 degrees. Anywhere between 65 and 75 is a good start, but 75 can really, really decrease your brew time because it's already hot. And there's not a lot of risk of heat loss here. In the beginning, I was scared that, if you leave your kettle like that, are you going to lose a lot of heat? Well, because it's not hot like 90 degrees, the gradient of heat loss, of heat transfer is smaller. So that's why, basically from a 92, 93 degrees C kettle to room temperature, it's much faster. The heat transfer is much faster than from a 70 degrees C temperature to room temperature. All right, so here I have my 8 grams. I'm putting here 70 grams, very slowly. And here already, I barely see any clumps. I may do like 1, 2, and 3 by kind of rotating and counter rotating every time, but that's about it. And that's mostly because I'm grinding just that coarser. So remember, usually it's 2 to 4 clicks, but I'm more towards 4 clicks. And if you have any classic grinder, just do like the finest espresso that usually clog your espresso. That would be for your this modern Ibrik Cezve. I start with a medium-high heat. So this is kind of medium. This is too high to me. So just a medium. That's it. And I'm targeting a 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes, 15 seconds brew time. So really, really short. And here, still a little bit high. With this coffee, this one really is quite soluble, so it brews really fast. So I like to start with the medium, but in general, you start medium high. And around 1 minute brew time, I start my timer when I first heat up the burner. About 1 minute, I decrease the flame. I'm just touching. It's just like a, like a DJ sometimes. They're kind of itchy. They want to touch knobs. It's the same when I brew Ibrik Cezve. There's some cloggings. I'm just gonna poke them. And here we are at 1 minute, so I'm going to reduce my heat to a low. So either you start medium to low or high to low. And here it start rising, and I'm gonna stop about 1/4 inch before the rim. Usually you let it kind of inflate, sort of bloom or rise until the rim, the edge here. But here I'm gonna stop at the 2 dots where the handle is connected with the Cezve. And as rising, and it goes really fast, so you have to be very careful. Here we go, 1 minute and 40 seconds. And then you're gonna remove your Cezve immediately because it's still hot there. And you gotta pour it also immediately as soon as it's ready. And you kind of tilt your cup and you slowly pour it, almost like a latte art. And then you pour all the rest and you'll have a beautiful crema. So this coffee right now, you can see the crema is beautifully made, but unfortunately it's way too hot to drink right now. So usually you start with water, and the way to assess is basically to touch your Cezve, and if you can hold it for about like 10 seconds-ish, it's good to drink. Right now, it's kind of burning. I cannot hold more than 3 seconds. So that's where one part of the recipe is the brew, the preparation, the brew. But one really important part is the experience and the tradition. That's why I really love this coffee, because you need to have it with water first to cleanse a little bit your palate, then the coffee, and then a sweet. And it's that whole pairing, whole experience that makes Ibrik Cezve a really special brewing method. On top of that, so this is more like for people who really want to experience flavors and the culture of it. In terms of purely coffee, it's a decoction method, which is not immersion, right? So like a steeping, which is not filtration or dripping, where it's pulled by gravity, but it's actually brewed through an external source of heat. Here, our gas. So it creates, besides boiling the water and kind of extracting the coffee, it also creates some agitation inside the Ibrik Cezve. And because of this particular shape here, it kind of concentrates our brew towards the top, which makes that crema really, really, really nice and consistent. Not necessarily thick. The thickness will depend on the freshness mostly and the variety, right? But here it's really about that consistency, which helps a lot if you want to brew several ones. And what I'm about to say, besides that, it also shows you the kind of full spectrum of the coffee, almost like cupping, right? In cupping, you are tasting coffee at different temperature. Well, this is exactly the same thing. When it's ready to drink, you will be assessing the coffee sort of hot, and then as it cools down, it will be warm, and then cold, you will have the same notes. If not, well, maybe the coffee is not that good. That's why I like using those coffees, this method with really high quality coffee to have an excellent experience. Now, back in a crema, this is really similar to espresso, right? So crema is mostly carbon dioxide. Some people skim it, and you have very good result with it. For signature beverages on competition, you can filter it either with AeroPress or with a fast filter to remove all those grounds. That's more like to create a beverage around it. But as it is right now, the first sip, that's where you get that slight grittiness because you have a little bit of the crema. But then you can really taste the kind of middle range flavors. Now it's kind of a little bit hot, so I still won't drink it right now. But it's at those moments where you can smell it. And here you don't want to disturb too much the grounds in the bottom because they are settling slowly, right? This is not filtrated, so when you put a beverage with the sediment inside, they slowly will form in a bottle and create like little kind of coffee mud, sorry. And so you don't want to disturb too much. That's why this cup is perfectly shaped so that it can trap those in the bottom when you drink it. And you're not going to drink the grounds if you have the proper cups here. So now it's going to be okay to, no, it's still too hot. It's still too hot, but let me just blow it. Delicious. It's a really complex coffee as well. But with this method, you don't need like a big brew, and it's an excellent after dinner, after lunch, or even morning cup of coffee. If you find espresso a little bit too strong, this method can be good for you. Or especially when you have a bag of coffee, at the end it's always like a few grams that doesn't add up to make a full batch of pour over or espresso shots. Well, this can be excellent for Ibrik Cezve because you only need anywhere between 6 to 8 grams to make 1 cup of coffee. So that's why I really love this. I brew it almost every day. And whenever a bag gets towards the end is the perfect occasion. But be careful not to burn your tongue. Now that the first sip that I took later before, I got mostly the crema, and you can remove that crema really with a spoon. That's something they do sometimes in competition, and I tend to do it as well. But here, just for the sake of this video, I wanted to do it the classic way. After that first sip, that's kind of a little bit gritty, and that's why you always rinse your palate, or you kind of drink in between, and then some sweet. But I already had my sweet. That's why I'm allowing just the coffee right now. After it's really delicious, and as it cools down, it showcases the different aromas and flavors of a given coffee. So that's why I really enjoy this brewing method, and please try it. That's the most important thing. So to sum up, what do you need? You need a high quality copper Ibrik Cezve, a burner, a stand, but it's kind of optional, a cup, special cup for this method. If you don't have it, it's all right. It's not a big deal. But the most important, I would say, is the copper for this for the heat transfer between the flame and the beverage. Then you need excellent grinders, either those high quality hand grinders or a high quality commercial grinder with either Turkish burrs or really fine settings. And in terms of settings, if you have a Commandante, I'm using somewhere between 2 and 4 clicks. For this recipe, it's 4 clicks. So it's on the coarser side of the Turkish coffee range, even though Ibrik Cezve, it's really small range, right? 2 to 4 clicks is not a lot. You only have like 3 settings. So, but I picked the coarsest one, and on a classic machine, just go finer than your espresso, just 1 tad finer. And then my recipe is 8 grams of coffee for 70 grams of water at 70 degrees. So easy to remember, 70-70. And instead of the 70-70, right? Usually you do a 1-to-10 ratio, 7 grams of coffee for 70 grams of water. But here I up the dose just a little bit to bring more brightness to the cup and to remove bitterness. In a classic competition recipe, you want a little bit of bitterness because they're looking for, you know, the balance of bitterness, sweetness, and brightness. I personally don't really like bitterness, so that's why I up my dose a little bit. It gets a little bit more bright, and that's because that's the coffee I enjoy. I really make coffee the way I like it, first and foremost. And you have absolutely no bitterness. So very low in bitterness, higher in sweetness and brightness, and also thicker because the dose is a little bit short, right? Strong. And then I start with a high or medium heat. At 1 minute, I put to low heat, and I end somewhere between 1.5 minutes and 2 minutes 15. Anywhere between those is kind of a good mark. 2 minutes will be like the perfect balance, and then based on the taste, you can adjust. If you want a little more brightness and a little bit more fruit character, below 2 minutes, and if you want a little more sweetness, chocolatey character, maybe above 2 minutes. And then you serve it, and you have to wait. You have to be patient. Have a bit of water, a little sweet, and then enjoy the cup of coffee. And if you can, share it with someone. Thank you very much, and see you next time for another video.